Hey, everybody. Thank you. Welcome to the Decisions Lunch and Learn. Thank you for joining. Um, as usual, if you have any questions for us at the Decisions team, please post them in the chat, and we are here to answer them. And I see that we don't have any pre-submitted questions today, so the floor is open. And again, for any attendees that may have trickled in the past couple minutes, feel free to post any questions in the Zoom chat here, and we'll be happy to answer those. But so far, looks like it might be a slow lunch and learn today. I see a question came in here. Is there a good way to sort a grouped report by group subtotals, such as sorting by entered hours? Yeah. If let's see, pull up my screen here. So you just mean, do you just mean basic grouping, just on a column, or?
Yes, like in a report, just grouping the grouped subtotals and figuring that part out. Yeah.
Yeah, so that can you see the studio here that I got? Cool. So if I just make a report here. So I'll just use a generic type, a native type, like the account data source. I might not have enough data in here. Let me see. Probably only have a few native accounts. Yeah. Created by might be a common. Yeah, here we go. So in terms of actually grouping the column, is it just, again, by a common value? You just want to group the records by, like, in this case, the created by the common value is system. Is that kind of what you're referring to?
Yes, I'm really getting clarity for someone else's question. So any default answers, I'm going to be putting this on the forum.
Oh, okay. Yeah, sure. I mean, so if I run this report, let's see here. We can see if in 7, it's a little bit different than previous versions. We kind of rehauled the searching capability for report viewers to be a little more intuitive. But the easiest way, if you're just looking at the report, and you can either do it at runtime. So in this case, the report is not grouped by a column by default. It's just rendering out the data as it is. But at runtime, if let's say, in this case, maybe an end user is looking at this report in some kind of dashboard, then they can select this icon up here, and then they can specify any column at runtime to be grouped by, and then just hit apply. So in this case, you can see now I've got a header here that says system, because that is the common value that these 3 records are being grouped by. If I changed it to something that it wasn't common, like account ID, now you can see they're separated out into 3 different groups, as they do not share a unique account ID. Of course, with more data, you'll see it's much more helpful, because if there were many different groupings, if there was 3 system values, or a lot of different created bys, then, for example, you can collapse these headers, and it just makes it easier to organize. You can also designate a grouping at design time, so that by default the report will just be grouped by a certain column, for example. Let's see if I can just apply that here.
This happened to be on a different screen. I'm only seeing the folder view of your apps.
You're seeing what? Sorry.
I just see like my apps designer view, everything that's in your apps. I don't see a report actually.
Let me double check my sharing settings. No, I was trying to share. the studio and the report viewer, and that's what it looks like it was sharing. Why is that? Do you see a report viewer now, or is it still just the My Apps and everything?
Yeah.
You do see the report viewer?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Well, sorry about that. Yeah, so as I was saying, I've just got a really basic report here. I'm just reporting on a native type for convenience, the account data source. Obviously, you can have custom types and things like that, but this is for the sake of example. If I run this report, we would see something like what an end user might see if we were using this report. And actually, let me go ahead and revert a change I had made for demonstration purposes real quick. Right. So the most basic grouping is just grouping by a common value, and an end user can select this here in version 7. Like I said, it looks a little bit different here, and they can from here specify a column that they would like to group the values by. And of course, with if there's a lot of data, in this case, of course, we only have 3 records, but if there is a lot of data, then this will group. In this case, you can see this header here is grouped by system. And so now we have these 3 accounts grouped by this common value from this created by column, which can collapse. Whereas if I, for example, maybe grouped it by account ID, where all the values are unique, again, we've got new headers for each and every unique possible value here that can also be collapsed. So that an end user can do this at runtime, again, from selecting from this icon and specifying it here. Or you can specify groupings ahead of time at design time. For example, again, with the created by column, if I select this column in the report designer here, and again, select this icon, then I can go ahead and specify a grouping at design time so that when the report is run for an end user, the grouping will be there by default instead of them having to specify it. Those are the 2, I mean, that's the most basic form of grouping a column. Of course, there are, different views, like, we've got bars, charts, things like that. And you can do more advanced grouping with those views as well, and actually have them rendered into a chart on the report instead of just a basic view. If that helps answer your inquiry.
But I guess another question would be like, is there any difference with this grouping and like being able to group with like a column that has numbers in it or anything of that nature?
Yeah, so that kind of comes back to, see if I can get a data source that actually what would a good data source be for this? Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of, like I said, with the charts especially, there's a lot of calculations you can do on the columns. I'd have to, I might have to, I don't really have any test data. See if I can find something simple here. And specifically with numbers on the report, is that just, is there something like a specific view, or is that just kind of an open-ended?
Like a calculated column, like the example was like entered hours or something like that.
Like a date column or something here. Yeah, I mean, in general, you can see under, for example, under calculated columns, we can display the data. Like, let's see, for example, if I add like a get days between calculated column. So all of these calculated columns, they allow for specifying, in this case, for example, the get days between, if I have two columns that are both dates, because I'm using the account data source. So in this case, dates were the easiest thing to find. You can do this with numbers, of course, as well. If a column is, like you were saying, maybe an integer or some kind of number field, then you can add these calculated columns in for that as well. In this case, I'm going to use a date. I could do created on as the first field, and this is the selection here is sourced from the data source. So what's happening is that since I'm using the account data source, and I went and added this get days between calculated column. And again, you can see that down. These are the normal columns just for pure data, but if you collapse this, you'll see calculated at the bottom. So I added this calculated column type get days between. And now when I go to edit this, these fields are just pulling from the account data source. So if you have a custom type, it will be any of the date fields. In this case, this specific calculation, this calculated column is just meant for dates. So it's only going to look at members of your data source that are date type. And then of course you can specify what fields you'd like to be used. So in this case, maybe I say the first field is the created on date. The second field is the last login date. And then I'm going to go ahead and leave everything else here. This is all just the formatting, but I'm going to leave the default formatting and go ahead and hit apply. Now, of course, I don't know what the dates are there. I can add those in. So this is maybe a nonsense result, but nevertheless, it's, because I might have had the dates backwards. So now it's giving me a negative day. But, if, for example, let's say my, first, my account creation date was 68 days ago, and my last login date was, well, today, then it's saying that, it's going to calculate the difference for that field and render that result here. So every time this report runs, this entire column is going to be performing a calculation. That's why it's obviously a calculated column. So that's one easy way to manipulate data on the report end without doing anything super fancy.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, looks like we've got another question that came in. Let me make sure here. So this one is from Mike Huggins. I have a case entity with different states for different scheduled notifications. One of the assignment forms is for a manager. On the form, I have a checkbox with the option to put the case on hold and not send out notifications. Is there a way to do this? Yeah, absolutely. So you just have a checkbox. And right now with your case entity, how are these, how are you sending out the notifications exactly? Is it like on a state change? Is it kind of like a trigger for the state change, or?
Yeah, each state is like a first notification, second notification, final, and then like a management state, which has their form. So, and then each of those notifications has a trigger flow that I have set up that'll send out the assignments and the emails. But I was looking like for the management state, I'm rebuilding an old form where they have a checkbox that says, you could put it on hold and not send out notifications. It's like the whole case may be on hold. It's not, looking to be worked at the moment. So I was wondering if there's a way to, I guess put the case on hold or stop it, I guess, and not send out those notifications that I have scheduled. All my assignments for each notification they have an expiration date on each assignment, so they move to the next one after a certain amount of time. So I was wondering if there's a way to, I guess put, instead of, having those notifications expire and keep moving as they normally would, if the manager was to, do something, or if there's, like I said, I have a checkbox right now as I'm making an old form. So, but if there's a way to, where a manager can go into the case and pause the case and have that documented, I suppose. So right now I just have like I said, I just have the functionality as a checkbox. And if there's a way to make that Boolean true or false, and would it, kind of hold onto the case. So if
Sure.
there's a way, yeah.
And I get the rough idea.
Yeah.
So think about this. The manager, they're looking at an assignment, right? When you've got a checkbox in a form, and then that's assigned to the manager.
Yeah, it's like the manager's approval form. Like there's other forms that administrators would fill out, and so they would they're on their form, they would kind of be the final one. So noticing on the previous form I had that there was an option to put it on hold. So yeah, it's kind of where I'm at right now. So just kind of brainstorm and seeing if you guys had any ideas.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I guess to clarify, on hold, is that just what specifically, like, I guess what is putting the case on hold trying to prevent? Like, is it other assigned users from moving the case forward?
Yeah, and for like the notifications not to go out, and so for not to the first state is the first notification, second state is second notification. So if there's a way to, I guess, instead of like I said, I have to have it set up as like a scheduled different state changes, and so if there's a way to, I guess, pause the scheduled state changes, the different scheduled assignments I have for each different state, so it doesn't just keep moving. If you could just pause it.
So I guess, and how are these being scheduled? Or is these is it like on the assignment itself, like a escalation date, expiration date? Is that what you're referring to?
Yeah, I have a set up as an expiration date. So after a certain amount of time, that assignment will expire and move to the next state, and then a second notification will go out.
And you want the manager to be able to kind of put a pause on the escalation and expiration behavior of the assignment itself. Okay. Honestly, I'm off the top of my head, and I can double check here, but I'm not sure if we can pass that kind of data in as an input directly to kind of the escalation aspect of the assignment. Mm-hmm. If we can control that aspect, then you could do it from like a checkbox on the form potentially. I can double check here. Aside from that, though, the first thing that I'm thinking of, the easiest way might be to just have it be an outcome path. So this would effectively just be, what amounts to a button. There are other ways to do it, but for simplicity's sake, let's say there's a button on the form instead of like a checkbox, and it just goes to a holding assignment. And and that form can be practically identical, if not almost completely identical, or to the assignment that the manager is looking at. But basically, it could be an assignment. So the manager is looking at his current assignment with the one with the escalations and everything on it. He just selects a button that says, put on hold, whatever. Mm-hmm. And that moves forward to a subsequent assignment that does not have any escalations or anything like that. And then he can then go to that assignment if he wants to resume the case. And it can just loop back to the first assignment that did have the escalations. That is kind of the simplest, easiest way to go about it, probably, if that makes any sense. So basically, it's just a holding assignment that can loop back and resume the path. If you, and I can show you this if my make sure my screen is still. Yeah. Okay. Perfect. So you can see in Chrome the report viewer that I've got here. I'm closing out of this though. Just making sure you can see. I'll create this flow. So this would be one kind of quick and easy way probably to go about this. So I'll just make a quick form with a button on it. Sure.
Oh yeah, you like that girl over there? Yep.
And I'll just make this, I'll make this incredibly ugly form. It doesn't matter. There we go. Let's say, actually, let me get one more button on this. I'll just say like proceed. Sure. Let's actually call this one. And let's call this one, I don't know, hold case. There we go. Horrendously ugly. So this would be a very, very, very simple way to do it. You could literally just have some kind of button, and there's a lot of ways to kind of have the form leave this on this outcome path, but a button is, just for the sake of example, is the easiest way to go about it. So, and I'll say proceed. Let's just say this moves on to some other part of the process. You know what? And these can be, like I said, these can be slightly different forms. They can be nearly identical. They can be identical, however you want to organize that. I'm just putting it all on the same forms again for simplicity here, which is making it look so much more ugly, but. And we'll just kind of ignore these extra outcome paths on this one here. Well, that was, we don't really need this. There we go, it's a bit less ugly. Right, so this is kind of the easiest way to go about it. This is your manager's first form. This is the one that maybe he decides that, and I'll go ahead and debug this. Maybe he or she decides to, oh, hello, my form is not, oh, right, because it's not assigned to anybody. Okay, let me assign it to me real quick. Test. Okay. Yeah. That should actually render now. Right, so I'm the manager. I can just kind of hit hold case. And then this assigned form here would not have any escalation information. It would not send out notifications. You can contrive that however you'd like, but this would be kind of just, this is a common enough pattern that we have. It's a simple kind of save and resume kind of design. And so then the manager will get assigned this subsequent form, the holding form, however you want to phrase that. And he or she can leave it alone and then come back and decide, okay, it's time to resume the case and hit proceed. And now it'll come back to the original assignment. And this assignment will have all of your escalation and expiration settings. And that will resume the notifications basically.
Okay, I'll go ahead and I'll give it a shot and try it out. So I appreciate it. Thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, we've got a few attendees just coming in. So for anybody that has joined late, feel free to post any questions you might have about decisions in the Zoom chat. We've got the Q&A chat, and I will be happy to answer them. And I think I'll give any remaining attendees maybe a few minutes, since some people did come in a little late. If we don't have too many questions coming in here in the next, I don't know, maybe 5 minutes or so, then we might end the today's lunch and learn late, and get back on for our other lunch and learns tomorrow and Thursday. But we'll see. I'll give everybody a chance here. All right, well, it looks like we've answered everybody's questions today. So I'll go ahead and close the floor for questions. And I think we'll go ahead and end today's lunch and learn just a little early. But please feel free to join us again tomorrow and Thursday. We run this every week, Monday through Thursday. And we'll be here to answer any kind of questions you might have. And thanks for joining.